The wind on Korath 7 smelled like death. It carried the dust of 1,000,000 bones, the ash of burned cities, and the memory of a war that had killed this world long ago. Nothing lived here anymore. Nothing grew. The sky was the color of rust, and the ground was black glass where bombs had melted the stone. Kang Tiho walked alone through this dead place. His boots crunched on broken ground. His armor was old and covered in scratches and dents. A rifle hung on his back and a case was handcuffed to his left wrist. Inside that case was a fortune. Rare crystals worth more than 3 human colonies, enough money to buy a small moon. But Tiho did not care about the money. It was not his. He was only the delivery man. He had been walking for 6 hours. His legs hurt. His throat was dry. But he did not stop. He never stopped. That was what made him different from other soldiers. Other men got tired and rested. Tiho got tired and kept walking. The slaver compound appeared on the horizon. It was an ugly building made of black metal and concrete. Guard towers stood at each corner and armed creatures patrolled the walls. These were the Korthax, insect warriors with hard shells and sharp claws. They stood 8 feet tall and had 4 arms. Their eyes were red and cold. Tiho approached the main gate without fear. A Korthax guard pointed a weapon at him. The creature made clicking sounds with its mouth. It was laughing. "One human," the guard said in broken common language. "One small human comes to our door. Are you lost, little meat thing?" Tiho lifted the case. "I am here to buy." The guard stopped laughing. It looked at the case, then at Tiho, then back at the case. After a moment it called for others. Soon 5 more Korthax surrounded the human. They led him inside. The compound was a prison. Cells lined the walls, and inside those cells were creatures from many worlds. Some were crying. Some were silent. Some had given up hope long ago. The slavers of Korath 7 captured and sold anyone they could find. War made good business for evil people. They brought Tiho to a large room. A Korthax bigger than the others sat on a throne made of bones. This was the leader. His shell was darker and scars covered his body. Old battles had marked him. "A human," the leader said. His voice was deep and rough. "We do not see many humans here. Your kind usually stays far from our world." "I am here for the Vellani princess," Tiho said. His voice was calm and flat. "Princess Yira, 3rd daughter of the emperor." The room went quiet. Then the Korthax leader started to laugh. The sound was terrible, like rocks grinding together. The other slavers joined him. "The princess," the leader said. "You want that weak thing. She cannot walk. She cannot fight. She is barely alive. Why would anyone want her?" Tiho lifted the case again. "This is why." He opened it. Inside, crystals glowed with soft blue light. The Korthax stopped laughing. Their red eyes grew wide. Even creatures as cruel as them understood value when they saw it. "This is enough to buy 10 princesses," the leader said slowly. "Why would you pay so much for one broken Vellani?" "That is not your concern," Tiho replied. "Do we have a deal?" The leader stared at him for a long moment. Then he waved one of his 4 arms. "Bring the princess." 2 guards left the room. Tiho waited. He did not move. He did not show any emotion. Inside, his heart was beating fast, but his face was stone. The guards returned, dragging something between them. Princess Yira of the Vellani Empire was not what Tiho expected. He had seen pictures of Vellani royalty before. They were always beautiful, always elegant, always dressed in fine clothes and jewelry. But this creature looked like a ghost. Her skin was pale lavender, almost gray now from hunger and pain. Her silver eyes had lost their shine. Her beautiful robes were torn and dirty. Chains wrapped around her thin wrists. She was so thin that Tiho could see her bones through her skin. The guards threw her on the ground in front of him. She fell hard and did not try to get up. But even lying in the dirt, she did not beg. She did not cry. Her eyes looked up at the Korthax leader with pure hate. That hate impressed Tiho. After everything they had done to her, she still had fire inside. As I said, the leader clicked, worthless merchandise. But if you want to waste your fortune on broken goods, I will not stop you. He gestured and a guard removed the chains from Yira's wrists. She was free, but she could not stand. Her legs were too weak. Months of captivity had stolen her strength. Tiho walked toward her. He kneeled down, putting himself at her level. For the first time, their eyes met. Yira looked at this strange creature. She had never been this close to a human before. His face was hard, covered in small scars. His eyes were dark and tired. But there was something in those eyes, something she had not seen in a long time. Kindness, hidden deep but there. "Can you walk?" he asked quietly. She tried to stand. Her legs shook. She managed to rise a few inches before falling again. Shame burned in her chest. A princess of the Velani Empire, too weak to stand on her own feet. Tiho did not laugh at her. He did not show pity. He simply waited. Yira looked at him with confusion. This human had paid a fortune for her freedom, more money than she could imagine. And now he was kneeling beside her in the dirt of a slaver compound, waiting patiently. "You paid for my release," she whispered. Her voice was rough from screaming, from crying, from months of silence. "Now carry me too." It was not a request. It was not a demand. It was something in between. A test, perhaps, or maybe just the desperate hope of someone who had nothing left. Tiho did not hesitate. He slid one arm under her legs and another behind her back. Then he stood, lifting her as easily as if she weighed nothing. And to him, she almost did. Velani had hollow bones, evolved for their low-gravity homeworld. She felt like holding a child. The Korthax leader laughed again. "Look at this. The human carries his purchase like a baby. Tell me, meat thing, what will you do with her? She is useless. She cannot even walk." Tiho turned toward the door. He did not look back. He did not answer. "You are a fool," the leader shouted after him. "Both of you will die in the wasteland. There is nothing out there but death." But Tiho was already walking. His boots made steady sounds on the floor. Left, right, left, right. The rhythm of a soldier who had walked through hell before and would do it again. Yira held onto his armor with her weak fingers. She could feel his heartbeat through the metal and fabric, steady and strong, like a drum that never stopped. They passed through the gate. The guards watched them go with amusement. None of them tried to stop the human. They had been paid. What happened next was not their problem. The wasteland stretched before them, 200 kilometers of death and danger. Radiation storms, hungry creatures, enemy patrols. No water, no shelter, no hope. Tiho started walking. Yira looked up at his face. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you pay so much? Why do you carry me? I am nothing to you." He did not answer. He just kept walking. She would ask again, many times, and eventually she would understand. But for now, all she could do was hold on and wonder what kind of creature this human truly was. The slaver compound grew smaller behind them. The red sky burned above, and somewhere ahead, past all the danger and death, there was a ship waiting to take them home. If they could survive long enough to reach it. The first hour was silent. Tiho walked and Yira lay in his arms, watching the dead world pass by. She had never seen destruction like this. Her homeworld was full of gardens, waterfalls, and soft music. This place was the opposite of everything she knew. "How far?" she finally asked. 200 kilometers, Tiho said. Yira did not know what to say. 200 kilometers. And this human planned to walk the entire distance while carrying her. It seemed impossible. "You will get tired," she said. "Yes." "You will want to rest." "Yes." "Then you should put me down. Leave me, save yourself." Tiho looked at her for the first time since they left the compound. His dark eyes were unreadable. "No." That was all he said. Then he turned his attention back to the path ahead and kept walking. Yira did not understand. In her world, no one sacrificed for strangers. Everything had a price. Every action had a purpose. But this human had paid a fortune and asked for nothing. He carried her through a wasteland and refused to leave her behind. What did he want? Hours passed. The sun moved across the rust-colored sky. Tiho's breathing grew heavier, but his steps never slowed. His boots left prints in the ash and dust. Each step was the same length as the one before, perfect rhythm, perfect discipline. A voice crackled in his ear. "Tiho, can you hear me? This is June." Tiho tapped a small device on his collar. "I hear you." "Good, I am tracking you from orbit. You are making good time, but there is a problem. Sensors show a radiation storm forming to the northwest. It will hit your position in about 4 hours." Yira felt Tiho's arms tighten slightly around her. "How bad?" "Bad enough to kill you both if you are caught in the open. There is an old bunker about 12 kilometers east of your current path. I am sending coordinates now." "Understood." The voice paused. "Tiho, is she okay, the princess?" Tiho glanced down at Yira. She was looking up at him with curious silver eyes. "She is alive." "Good, keep her that way. June out." Tiho changed direction, east, toward the bunker. "Who was that?" Yira asked. "A friend." "A human friend?" "Yes." Yira considered this. Humans were strange to her. They worked together, trusted each other, sacrificed for each other. Vellani were not like this. Vellani families fought for power. Brothers killed brothers. Sisters betrayed sisters. Trust was a weakness. But this human trusted someone in orbit to guide him. He trusted himself to carry a stranger across a death world. And somehow, despite all logic, Yira was beginning to trust him too. 3 hours later, they saw the scouts. 6 Korthax warriors on patrol. They were far away, but they were moving in the same direction as Tiho and Yira. If they continued on this path, they would cross paths with the enemy. Tiho stopped walking. He looked around, searching for cover. There was a shallow ditch nearby, formed by some ancient explosion. Without a word, he carried Yira to the ditch and set her down gently. "Stay here," he said quietly. "Do not make a sound." "What are you going to do?" He did not answer. He pulled the rifle from his back and checked the ammunition. Then he drew a long combat knife from his belt. The blade was worn but sharp. "Wait," Yira whispered. "There are 6 of them, you are only one." Tiho looked at her. For just a moment, something like a smile crossed his face. It was not happy. It was the smile of a man who had done terrible things and was about to do more. "6 is not many," he said. Then he was gone, moving low and fast across the ground. Yira watched him disappear into the ash and smoke. Her heart was beating fast. She had never felt fear for another creature before. But now, watching this human go to fight 6 warriors alone, she felt afraid. Not for herself. For him. Tiho circled around the Korthax patrol. They were not paying attention. Why would they? This world belonged to them. No threat existed here. They walked casually, weapons at their sides, talking in their clicking language. They did not see the human until he was among them. The first Korthax died before it could make a sound. Tiho's knife went through its throat, cutting deep. The creature fell, and its companions turned in surprise. Too slow. Tiho was already moving. He fired his rifle twice, and 2 more Korthax dropped. The remaining 3 finally understood what was happening. They raised their weapons. Tiho threw his knife. It buried itself in the eye of one warrior. 3 kills in 5 seconds. The last 2 Korthax roared with rage and charged at him. Humans are small compared to Korthax. Humans are weaker. Humans should lose this fight. But Korthax had never fought a human like Tiho. He dropped low, avoiding a claw that would have taken his head off. He rolled to the side, grabbed his knife from the dead warrior's face, and came up slashing. The blade cut through soft flesh at the joint of a Korthax arm. The creature screamed. T-Ho did not stop. He moved like water flowing around his enemies. Where they were strong, he was fast. Where they were powerful, he was clever. He knew how Korthax moved, how they attacked where they were weak. The last Korthax tried to run. T-Ho shot it in the back. Silence returned to the wasteland. T-Ho stood among 6 dead bodies, breathing hard. Blood covered his armor. Some of it was his own. A claw had caught his shoulder, tearing through fabric and skin, but he had won. He cleaned his knife on a dead Korthax and walked back to the ditch. Yira stared at him with wide eyes. She had seen warriors fight before. Velani soldiers trained for years to master elegant combat forms. Korthax were brutal and strong, but this human, he fought like something from a nightmare. Fast, vicious, and completely without mercy. "What are you?" she breathed. T-Ho sheathed his knife and lifted her back into his arms. Blood dripped from his shoulder onto her torn robes. "Tired," he said. And he started walking again. The bunker appeared as the storm clouds gathered on the horizon. It was half buried in the ground, a relic from the war. Human construction, human technology. It had been abandoned years ago, but the door still worked. T-Ho carried Yira inside and sealed the door behind them. The bunker was small but safe. Old equipment covered the walls. Dust was everywhere, but it would protect them from the radiation. He set Yira on a metal bench and sat down heavily across from her. For the first time, she saw how tired he really was. His face was pale under the dirt and blood. His hands were shaking slightly. He had been walking for hours. He had fought 6 warriors, he was wounded, and still he had not complained, not once. Yira watched him pull a small medical kit from his pack. He tried to treat his shoulder wound, but his hands were too unsteady. The needle kept slipping. "Let me," she said. He looked at her with surprise. "You are too weak." "My hands are not." She held them up. They were thin and pale, but they were steady. "I am a princess. We learn medicine as part of our education. Give me the kit." T-Ho hesitated, then he handed it to her. Yira worked slowly and carefully. Her body was weak, but her mind was still sharp. She cleaned the wound, applied medicine, and sealed it with bioglue. Her touch was gentle. "You saved my life," she said as she worked. 6 warriors and you killed them all. They would have killed us. Most people would have hidden. Most people would have let me die to save themselves." T-Ho said nothing. Yira finished and set down the medical kit. She looked at his scarred face, his tired eyes, his rough hands. He was not handsome by Velani standards. He was not elegant or refined. But there was something beautiful about him anyway. Something in the way he refused to give up. "Tell me why," she said softly. "Tell me why you came for me. Tell me why you paid so much. Tell me why you carry me through hell." T-Ho was quiet for a long moment. The storm began to howl outside, shaking the bunker walls. Finally, he spoke. 2 years ago, I led a squad of soldiers, 12 good men and women. We were sent to rescue Velani refugees from a Korthax attack. We fought for 3 days. We saved 400 lives, but my entire squad died, every single one. He paused, his voice grew even quieter. The Velani Empire never said thank you, never acknowledged our sacrifice. They pretended it never happened. My friends died for nothing. Yira felt shame burn in her chest. She knew how her people treated outsiders. She knew they saw humans as lesser creatures. "Then why save me?" she asked. "If my people treated you so badly, why risk your life for a Velani princess?" T-Ho looked at her, and in his tired, dark eyes she saw something she would never forget. "Because someone had to," he said. "Because someone should." The storm raged outside, but inside the bunker there was only silence, and in that silence something changed between them. Yira did not know what it was. She only knew that this human, this tired soldier from a world she had never seen, had become the most important person in her universe. The storm lasted through the night. Wind screamed against the bunker walls like dying animals. Radiation crackled in the air outside, invisible poison that would kill anything living in minutes. But inside, Tiho and Yira were safe. Yira could not sleep. Her body was exhausted, but her mind would not rest. She lay on the metal bench, wrapped in a thin emergency blanket, watching Tiho. He sat against the wall with his eyes closed, but she knew he was not really sleeping. His hand rested on his rifle. His body was always ready. "Tell me about your home," she said quietly. Tiho opened his eyes. "Why?" "Because I want to know. I want to understand what kind of world makes creatures like you." He was silent for a moment. Then he began to speak, his voice low and rough. "Earth is blue and green. There are mountains so tall that their tops touch the clouds. There are oceans so deep that no one has ever seen the bottom. In spring, pink flowers called cherry blossoms grow on trees. The wind blows and the petals fall like pink snow." Yira tried to imagine it. She could not. Her world was silver and white, elegant and controlled. This sounded wild and beautiful in a different way. "My mother made a food called kimchi," Tiho continued. "It was red and spicy. It burned your mouth, but you could not stop eating it. She made it every autumn, filling big jars that lasted through winter." "Your mother sounds kind." "She was." His voice changed slightly, a hint of pain. "She died when I was young, but I still remember the taste of her cooking." Yira felt something strange in her chest. Vellani did not talk about their mothers this way. Family was about power and position, not love. But this human spoke of his mother with such warmth that Yira felt jealous. "I do not know what my mother's cooking tastes like," she admitted. "Princesses do not eat with their families. We eat alone, served by attendants." Tiho looked at her with something like pity, but it was not cruel pity. It was understanding. "That sounds lonely," he said. "It is." They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the storm continued to rage, but inside the bunker, something peaceful had grown between them. The storm passed before dawn. Tiho checked his equipment, ate a small ration bar, and offered one to Yira. She ate it slowly. The taste was terrible, but it was food. Her body needed strength. "Are you ready?" he asked. She looked at her thin arms, her weak legs. She could barely lift herself from the bench. "Ready?" "No," but she would not hold him back. "Yes," she lied. Tiho smiled slightly. He had seen through her lie, but he said nothing. He simply lifted her into his arms and walked out into the wasteland. The air smelled cleaner after the storm. The radiation had passed, leaving behind strange patterns in the dust. They walked in silence, Tiho's boots crunching with each step. After 2 hours, his communicator crackled. "Tiho, this is Subin. Do you read me?" Tiho's body tensed. "I read you. What is wrong?" A woman's voice spoke quickly. "Bad news. We intercepted enemy communications. A Korthax warlord named Vrek is hunting the princess. He is coming with 30 elite warriors." Yira felt her blood turn cold. Vrek. She knew that name. She remembered that face. He was the one who had captured her, the one who had tortured her, the one she had refused to beg before. "Why?" Tiho asked. "She is already sold. What does he want?" Subin's voice was grim. "Revenge." She humiliated him by refusing to break. He swore to kill her himself. When the slavers sold her, he went mad with rage. He has been tracking you since you left the compound. Tiho stopped walking. His mind was calculating. 30 elite warriors, 1 human, an injured princess who could not walk. These were bad odds, very bad. "How far to extraction?" he asked. 80 kilometers. "And Vrek?" "He will reach you in 8 hours if you keep your current pace. You cannot outrun him." Tiho looked around. The wasteland stretched in every direction. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, but in the distance he saw something. A cluster of ruins on a small hill, the skeleton of an old building. "What is that structure to the east?" he asked. "Let me check." A pause. Firebase Echo. It was a human outpost during the war, destroyed in the final battle, nothing left but walls and rubble. "Walls are enough." Subin understood immediately. "You cannot be serious. You want to fight 30 Korthax warriors alone. Tiho, that is suicide." "No," Tiho said calmly. "That is the only option." He changed direction and began walking toward Firebase Echo. Yira gripped his armor tightly. "I heard what she said," Yira whispered. 30 warriors, you cannot fight them all. This is madness." "Maybe." "Then why not leave me and save yourself? You can move faster without me. You can escape." Tiho looked down at her. His dark eyes were calm and certain. "I do not leave people behind," he said. "Not ever." They reached Firebase Echo in the afternoon. The outpost was exactly as Subin described, destroyed. Broken walls stood like rotten teeth. Collapsed roofs created caves of rubble. The ghosts of human soldiers seemed to linger in every corner. But Tiho saw something else. He saw cover. He saw choke points. He saw 100 places to hide and ambush and kill. He set Yira down on a pile of debris with a clear view of the surrounding area. Then he started working. Yira watched in amazement as Tiho transformed the ruins. He moved broken stones to create barriers. He found old explosive devices buried in the rubble and placed them at key points. He created tripwires from salvaged wire. He positioned himself firing angles for his rifle. He worked for hours without rest. His hands bled from lifting sharp debris. Sweat soaked his clothes, but he did not stop. "You are building a trap," Yira realized. "Yes. You have done this before." Tiho paused. Old memories flickered across his face. "Many times. Humans learned to fight against stronger enemies a long time ago. We are small and weak compared to many creatures, so we learned to be clever." "Clever how?" "We learned that strength means nothing if you cannot use it. A big enemy in an open field will destroy you, but a big enemy in a narrow corridor, surrounded by traps and facing unexpected attacks, that enemy can die like any other." Yira thought about this. The Vellani had always dismissed humans as primitive and crude. They built ugly ships. They ate strange food. They fought without elegance. But now, watching Tiho prepare his battlefield, Yira understood something. Humans were not primitive. They were dangerous. They had survived on a world that tried to kill them at every turn. They had fought wars against each other for thousands of years. They knew more about death than the Vellani could imagine. "Will it work?" she asked. "Can you really kill 30 warriors?" Tiho finished placing the last trap and sat down beside her. His face was dirty and tired, but his eyes still burned with determination. "I do not have to kill them all," he said. "I just have to make sure you get out alive." "What about you?" He did not answer. Yira felt something break inside her. Tears formed in her silver eyes. She did not understand these tears. Vellani princesses did not cry for others, but she was crying now. "I do not want you to die for me," she whispered. Tiho reached out and touched her cheek. His hand was rough and warm. It was the first gentle touch she had felt in months. "Then give me a reason to live," he said. "Stay alive. No matter what happens tomorrow, stay alive." Yira grabbed his hand and held it tightly. "I will, I promise." They sat together as the sun set on Korath 7. Tomorrow, an army would come to kill them. Tomorrow, Tiho would fight a battle he could not win. But tonight, there was only the two of them, a human soldier and an alien princess. Two creatures from different worlds, connected by something neither of them could name. Yira leaned against Tiho's shoulder. He did not push her away. She closed her eyes and listened to his heartbeat, steady and strong, like always. "Tell me more about Earth," she said softly. "Tell me about the cherry blossoms." And he did. He spoke of spring rains and summer festivals, of autumn leaves and winter snow. He described mountains and rivers and cities full of light. He told her about his childhood, his friends, his dreams. His voice was the last thing she heard before sleep took her. And for the first time since her capture, her dreams were not nightmares. They were pink petals falling like snow. Dawn came gray and cold. Yer awoke to find Tiho already awake. He had not slept. He sat on a broken wall, watching the horizon, his rifle across his lap. His eyes were red from exhaustion, but they were sharp and focused. "They are coming," he said without looking at her. Yira pushed herself up on her elbows. In the distance, she could see dust rising. Something large was moving toward them. Many somethings. How long? 1 hour, maybe less. Fear grabbed her heart, but she pushed it down. Fear would not help. She had to be strong, for him. "What should I do?" she asked. Tiho finally looked at her. He crossed the rubble and knelt beside her, pressing something into her hands. It was a small pistol, human design, light and simple. "Have you ever fired a weapon?" "No." "It is easy. Point at what you want to kill, pull the trigger, keep pulling until it stops moving." He showed her how to hold it where the safety was, how to reload. "Stay in the corner behind those rocks. Do not come out. Do not make noise. If anyone who is not me comes through that entrance, shoot them." Yira's hands trembled as she held the gun. It was heavier than she expected, but she nodded. Tiho touched her face one more time. His rough fingers were gentle. "Remember your promise," he said. "I remember. Stay alive." "Good." Then he was gone, disappearing into the maze of ruins he had turned into a killing ground. Yira crawled to her hiding spot and waited. The pistol was cold in her hands. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. She could only see a small portion of the battlefield from here. She would hear more than she saw. 20 minutes later, Vrek arrived. The warlord was a monster. Even among Korthax, he was huge. His shell was thick and scarred from 100 battles. 4 arms, each ending in razor claws. Red eyes that burned with hate. He walked at the front of his warriors like a king. "Come out, little princess," he screamed. His voice echoed across the ruins. "I know you are here. I can smell your fear. Come out and I will make your death quick." Silence. "Very well, we do this the hard way." He raised one arm. "Search everywhere. Kill the human. Bring me the princess alive. I want her to watch him die before I finish her." 32 Korthax warriors spread out and entered the ruins. Tiho watched from the shadows. He counted them. He tracked their movements. He waited for the right moment. The first group of 5 warriors walked into his kill zone. They were confident and careless. They did not expect a real fight. Tiho pressed a button on his wrist. 3 explosions ripped through the ruins. Smoke and fire erupted. 3 Korthax died instantly. 2 more were wounded, screaming and confused. Tiho stepped out of hiding and shot them both. 5 down, 27 to go. The Korthax responded with rage. They charged toward the explosions, screaming battle cries, but they were running into Tiho's trap. Narrow corridors slowed them down. Rubble blocked their path. Tripwires caught their legs. Tiho moved like a ghost. He appeared, fired, and vanished before they could react. 1 shot, 1 kill. He never missed. He never hesitated. 10 minutes into the battle, 12 Korthax were dead. Vrek realized what was happening. His warriors were dying one by one, picked apart by an enemy they could not see. The human was not fighting fair. He was not standing in the open like a brave warrior. He was hiding, striking from shadows, using tricks and traps. "Enough," Vrek roared. "Group together, move slowly, cover each other. He is just one human." The remaining warriors obeyed. They formed a tight group and advanced carefully. This was smarter, harder to ambush, but Tiho had expected this. He stopped hiding. He stepped into the open, rifle in one hand, knife in the other, and faced the Korthax head-on. "Looking for me," he called out. 20 warriors turned toward him. Vrek pushed to the front, his eyes blazing with fury. "You dare face us, meat thing. You dare stand before the Korthax." "I dare," Tiho said calmly. "Question is, do you?" Vrek laughed. It was a horrible sound like bones breaking. "Kill him, but leave enough to recognize." 5 warriors charged. Tiho fought with everything he had. His rifle spat fire, dropping 2 before they reached him. Then they were on him, and it became a knife fight. Korthax were strong and fast. Their claws could cut through armor. But Tiho had fought things like them before. He knew their weaknesses. The joints where shell met shell, the soft flesh of the throat, the eyes. He ducked and weaved, avoiding killing blows by inches. His knife found weak points. One warrior fell, then another, then another. But they hurt him too. A claw ripped across his chest, opening a deep wound. Another hit his leg, making him stumble. Blood poured from a dozen cuts. Pain screamed through his body. He ignored it. Pain was just information. He could process it later, if there was a later. 15 minutes, 20 dead Korthax, 12 remaining. Tiho was slowing down. His movements were not as fast. His reactions were not as sharp. The wounds were taking their toll. He was running on empty, fighting with pure willpower because his body had nothing left. 3 more warriors attacked. He killed 2, but the third caught him with a heavy blow that sent him crashing into a wall. Something cracked inside his chest. Broken ribs, maybe worse. The warrior raised its claws for the killing strike. A shot rang out. The Korthax stumbled, confused. A small hole appeared in its side. Not a killing blow, but enough to distract it. Enough for Tiho to drive his knife through its eye. He looked toward the shot's origin. Yira stood in the open, the pistol shaking in her hands. She had left her hiding spot. She had fired at the monster. The shot had gone wide of any vital area, but it had saved his life. "Get back," Tiho screamed. But it was too late. Vrek had seen her. The warlord roared and charged toward the princess. His remaining warriors followed. Tiho pushed off the wall and ran to intercept them. He caught the first warrior from behind, killing it before it knew he was there. He shot the second in the back. He threw his knife at the third, hitting it in the neck. But Vrek was too fast. The warlord reached Yira in seconds. He towered over her, his massive body blocking out the light. She raised the pistol and pulled the trigger. Click, empty. Vrek laughed and raised his claw. Tiho slammed into him from the side. The impact sent both of them rolling across the ground. Tiho had no weapon now. His rifle was empty. His knife was stuck in a corpse. He had only his hands. So he used them. He punched Vrek's face with all his strength. Vellani shells were tough, but human fists were harder than they looked. The impact stunned the warlord for a moment. Tiho grabbed Vrek's own knife from the warlord's belt. The blade was huge, designed for Korthak's hands, heavy and awkward, but it would work. They fought in the dust, 2 wounded creatures trying to kill each other. Vrek was stronger, Tiho was faster, claws met steel, fists met shell. Blood flew from both of them. Yira watched in horror as the man who had carried her across a wasteland fought a monster twice his size. She watched him take hits that would have killed anyone else. She watched him keep fighting even when his body was broken. Finally, Tiho saw his opening. Vrek overreached with a claw strike. Tiho ducked under it and drove the warlord's own knife up through his throat. The blade punched through shell and flesh, cutting vital arteries. Vrek's eyes went wide. He tried to speak, but only blood came out. He fell backward, dead before he hit the ground. Silence. Tiho stood over the warlord's body, swaying on his feet. Around him, 29 Korthak's warriors lay dead. He had killed them all. Then he collapsed. Yira screamed his name. She did not know where the strength came from, but suddenly she was moving. Her weak legs carried her across the battlefield. She fell twice, but she kept crawling. She reached him. He was still breathing, but barely. Blood was everywhere. His eyes were closed. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no, you cannot die. You cannot leave me." She grabbed his armor and pulled. He was so heavy, she was so weak, but she pulled anyway. Inch by inch she dragged him toward cover. Her arms screamed. Her legs burned. Tears poured down her face. But she did not stop. He had carried her for 200 kilometers. Now she would carry him. It took forever. Every movement was agony. But finally, she got him behind a wall where the wind could not reach them. She lay beside him, holding him tightly, feeling his weak heartbeat against her chest. "Stay alive," she whispered to him. "Remember your promise, stay alive." Outside, the wind blew dust over the bodies of the fallen. The greatest massacre in Korthak's history. 32 elite warriors killed by one human. And inside the ruins, a princess who could not walk kept a dying soldier warm with her body and refused to let him go. Night fell on the battlefield. Yira did not sleep. She could not. Every time she closed her eyes, she was afraid Tiho's heart would stop. She did what she could with limited supplies. She cleaned his wounds with water from his canteen. She wrapped cloth around the worst cuts. She held him close to keep him warm as the temperature dropped. He drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes he whispered words she did not understand. Names, maybe, the ghosts of friends long dead. "Stay with me," she kept saying. "Please stay with me." Around midnight, June's voice came through the communicator. Tiho, can you hear me? We lost your signal for hours. What happened?" Yira fumbled with the device. She pressed the button like she had seen Tiho do. "This is Princess Yira. Tiho is hurt, very badly hurt. We need help." Silence. Then June's voice came back, shaking with emotion. "Is he alive?" "Yes, but I do not know for how long. We need medical attention immediately." "Understood. The Velani diplomatic ship entered orbit 2 hours ago. I am sending them your coordinates. Hold on, Princess. Help is coming." The channel went silent. Yira looked down at Tiho's face. Even unconscious, even covered in blood and dirt, he looked peaceful. The lines of pain had smoothed away. He looked younger somehow, more vulnerable. She touched his cheek gently. "You saved me," she whispered. "You carried me across hell. You fought an army for me, and you never asked for anything in return." She leaned closer, speaking directly into his ear. "I do not know if you can hear me, but I want you to know something. In all my life, no one has ever made me feel safe. No one has ever protected me. Everyone wanted something. Everyone had a price, but you are different." Tears fell on his face. "When I was a prisoner, I thought I understood what bravery was. I thought it was refusing to beg, refusing to break, but I was wrong. Bravery is not about what you refuse to do. Bravery is about what you choose to do, and you chose to save a stranger. You chose to carry me. You chose to fight for someone who did nothing to deserve it." She pressed her forehead against his. "Do you know what that means to me? Do you know how rare that is? In my entire empire, there is no one like you. No one." The hours passed slowly. Yira talked to him constantly, afraid that silence would let death creep in. She told him about her childhood, about the palace with its crystal towers and silver walls, about the gardens where she used to hide from her tutors, about her dreams of seeing other worlds. "I wanted to be an explorer," she admitted. "I wanted to see the universe. But princesses do not explore. Princesses attend ceremonies. Princesses marry for political advantage. Princesses sit and look beautiful and keep their mouths shut." She laughed bitterly. "That is what my father wanted. A beautiful, silent daughter. Instead, he got me. Too curious, too stubborn, too alive. Maybe that is why he did not pay my ransom. Maybe he was happy to be rid of me." She paused. "But you paid it. You came for me when my own family would not. How am I supposed to understand that? How am I supposed to process what you did? Dawn arrived. Golden light crept over the wasteland, painting the ruins in shades of orange and pink. And with the light came a sound. Engines. Yira looked up and saw a ship descending through the clouds. It was elegant and beautiful, made of silver metal that gleamed in the sunlight. A Velani diplomatic vessel. Her people had finally come. The ship landed in the clearing outside Firebase Echo. Doors opened, and Velani officials rushed out. They wore fine robes and carried medical equipment. Their faces showed urgency and concern. But they were not looking at T-Ho. They were looking for her. "Princess Yira," one of them called. "We have been so worried. Are you injured? Can you walk?" Yira felt something hot rise in her chest. Anger. "The human needs medical attention," she said sharply. "He is dying." The officials looked at T-Ho with disdain. One of them wrinkled his nose. "The human can wait. Our priority is you, Princess. We must get you aboard immediately." "He cannot wait. He saved my life. Without him I would be dead or worse. He needs help now." The officials looked at each other uncomfortably. One of them stepped forward. He was tall and elegant, with the cold eyes of someone who saw the world in terms of politics and advantage. "Princess, I understand your gratitude, but you must understand our position. The Velani Empire cannot be seen aiding a human mercenary. It would send the wrong message. It would imply that we owe something to these creatures." Yira stared at him. "We do owe something to this creature. We owe him everything." "Princess, please be reasonable." "I am being reasonable." Her voice was calm now, deadly calm. "Let me explain the situation to you. This human fought 32 Korthax warriors to protect me, alone. He killed them all. He is wounded because he used his body as a shield between me and an army. Now you can either provide him with medical care and treat him as an honored guest, or you can explain to my father why his third daughter refused to board the ship and stayed on this dead world with the only person who actually cared whether she lived or died." The official's face went pale. "You cannot be serious." "Test me." Silence stretched between them. The other officials whispered among themselves. They had been sent to collect a princess, not to negotiate with one. Finally, the tall official sighed. "Very well, bring the human, but the Emperor will hear about this." "Good," Yira said. "I want him to hear." The medical team rushed forward and carefully lifted T-Ho onto a stretcher. They carried him aboard the ship with Yira limping behind them. She refused all offers of assistance. Her legs were weak, but she walked on her own. She needed to. Inside the ship, they placed T-Ho in a medical chamber. Machines surrounded him, analyzing his injuries, beginning treatment. Yira stood by his side, watching the monitors, watching his vital signs slowly stabilize. He was going to live. The ship lifted off from Korath 7 and rose through the atmosphere. Through a window, Yira watched the dead world shrink below them. She saw the ruins of Firebase Echo, still covered with Korthax bodies. She saw the long trail they had walked together. She would never forget this place, this hell, this crucible that had forged something new inside her. Hours later, T-Ho opened his eyes. He was confused at first. White ceiling, soft bed, the hum of advanced machinery. This was not the battlefield, this was not the wasteland. "You are awake." He turned his head. Yira sat beside him, dressed in clean clothes, her lavender skin no longer covered in dust and blood. She looked beautiful, but tired, very tired. "How long?" he asked. His voice was rough. 2 days. You almost died 3 times. The doctors said no human should have survived your injuries. They said you lost too much blood. Your bones were broken. Your organs were damaged. And yet here I am." "Yes, here you are," she smiled slightly. "The doctors do not understand humans. They do not know what your kind can survive." T-Ho tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his entire body. Do not move, Yira said quickly. You need rest. Rest is for later. Where are we? Aboard a Velani diplomatic vessel. We are traveling to the Empire's capital. You are listed as a guest of the royal family. Tiho looked at her with surprise. A guest? That does not sound like the Velani I know. Yira's smile grew. I made them an offer they could not refuse. What kind of offer? The kind that involved me staying on that dead world if they did not treat you properly, she shrugged. They decided you were worth saving after all. Tiho stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. It hurt his broken ribs, but he laughed anyway. You are trouble, princess. I learned from someone. They sat together in comfortable silence. The ship hummed around them, carrying them toward a new world, a new chapter. What happens now? Tiho finally asked. Now you heal. And when you are better, we figure out what comes next. The Empire's enemies will not be happy about what you did. A human killing 32 Korthak's elite warriors. That story will spread. You will become famous. And famous people make targets. Sounds dangerous. It is. You will need protection, someone to watch your back, someone who understands both worlds. She paused. I am volunteering for the position. Tiho looked at her carefully. Are you sure? Your people already think badly of humans. Being associated with me will cause you problems. My people think badly of many things. It is time they learn to think differently. Her silver eyes met his dark ones. Besides, you carried me through hell. The least I can do is help you navigate an empire. Tiho reached out and took her hand. It was small and delicate in his rough grip, but it was warm. Then I accept your offer, princess. Good. And Tiho? Yes. Call me Yira. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless dark. Somewhere behind them, a dead world held the graves of warriors who had underestimated a human. Somewhere ahead, an empire waited for a princess who was no longer the same person who had left. And between those 2 points, 2 creatures from different worlds sat together, their hands intertwined, their futures suddenly connected. The soldier and the princess. The human and the Velani. 2 unlikely survivors who had found something in the wasteland that neither had expected. Something that felt very much like hope. And maybe, just maybe, something more. Yira leaned against Tiho's shoulder, careful not to hurt his injuries. He wrapped one arm around her gently. Tell me more about Earth, she said softly. Tell me about those pink flower petals that fall like snow. And he did. Outside, the stars watched in silence as the ship carried them toward tomorrow. A tomorrow that neither of them could predict. A tomorrow that would be full of challenges and enemies and impossible choices. But that was later. For now there was only this moment, a warm ship, a soft bed, 2 hands holding each other. And a voice describing cherry blossoms to someone who had never seen them but desperately wanted to. Some stories end with victory. This one ended with a beginning.